All right. So, you know, when you can follow along with pretty much anything in English, right? Like you get the complex stuff, but then when it's your turn to talk, it's like you're searching for that perfect word, the one that's a little more vibrant, a little more specific, and it's just not there.
Yeah, I think we've all been there. You've done the work to build up this huge understanding, but then it becomes about shaping how you actually use it.
Totally. And so for this deep dive, we're going to look at a podcast script you sent me about using advanced vocabulary. And like the goal here is to make it practical, something you could actually use every day to learn and start using 5 new words. It's not about memorizing some list. It's about actually getting these words into your everyday conversations.
Absolutely. And the script actually starts with a really important point, which is where you even find these words. It's not just about picking random words from a dictionary.
Exactly. The first step is to find words in context and things you're already reading or listening to. So think articles, TED Talks, novels, even other podcasts. And the key here is to choose words that really jump out at you, like you're actually interested in them. And just as an example, the script uses a few words from a business podcast: allocate, viable, disrupt, consensus, and insightful.
Right. And it's interesting because these aren't super obscure words, but they just add this extra layer of expression to things you probably already talk about. And because you're seeing them in action, it helps you understand how to use them yourself.
Which takes us to step 2, which is all about understanding the form, the tone, the register of each word. Because it's not enough to just sort of know the dictionary definition. You have to know how to actually use it in a sentence.
Yeah.
What words it goes with, which are called collocations. And whether it's more formal or informal, like thinking about who you're talking to and what the situation is.
Yeah, that's really important. And the scripts give some good examples. So for allocate, we need to allocate more resources to marketing. And then for viable, that's not a viable solution. And you can immediately see how they work grammatically.
Okay, so let's say you've got your words. You're interested in them and you know how they work. Then it's time for step 3, which is where the real learning happens. And that is, actively using them with your own ideas. So the script really pushes you to think about it. Where could I use this word at work? How could I work this into a conversation this week?
It's all about going from just knowing the word to actually using it. The script even gives an example of how you might combine those 5 words into a sentence. In our last meeting, we reached a consensus on the new product design. I shared some insights that the team found helpful. Now we're allocating funds and preparing for a possible market disruption.
Yeah, and the idea isn't to just read that sentence. It's to try to come up with your own version.
Yeah.
Think about something you've been thinking about and try to use those words in a way that sounds natural and say it out loud. I remember I was trying to use the word ubiquitous once and I completely messed it up in a conversation. It was a little embarrassing, but I definitely learned from it.
I think that's so important, though. You have to experiment a bit. And that actually leads perfectly into step 4, which is to record yourself using the words. I know it might feel a little awkward, but it's really helpful. The script suggests speaking for just a few minutes each day, just focusing on using those 5 new words.
Yeah, and the important part is what you do after you record yourself. You have to listen back and be honest with yourself. Did that sound natural? Did I use the word correctly? Because that's how you really internalize the correct way to use it.
Exactly. It's about owning that knowledge. And then from there, we move to step 5, which is reviewing the words you learned previously and trying to connect them to the new ones. So the script emphasizes daily review to keep everything fresh in your mind, and then building connections between words. For example, if you learned the word innovative a few days ago, and today you're learning disrupting, you could connect them by thinking, innovative ideas often disrupt existing industries.
The script even mentions making a word web.
Yeah.
Where you visually link words together, which is supposed to really help you remember them.
Yeah.
And then there's this bonus challenge, which is to pick a topic let's say, remote work, and then try to describe it 3 times using different levels of formality.
Right. That's a great way to practice adapting your language to different situations. And it kind of sets us up for the final challenge in the script, which brings everything together.
Okay, so the final challenge for everyone listening is to take the topic of launching a new product and try to use those 5 example words we talked about: allocate, viable, disrupt, consensus, and insightful. And you don't have to come up with this big long speech. Just aim for 2 minutes. The script even gives a little starting point. We need to allocate enough resources before launch. The idea is viable, but we'll face competition. If we want to disrupt the market, we'll need a strong strategy. Luckily, the team reached a consensus. The feedback we got was insightful.
It's a really cool way to practice using those words in like a realistic scenario. So to recap the whole routine, we've got choose words from things you're already reading or listening to make sure you really understand the words. Then actively use them when you're speaking. Record yourself speaking, and then listen back to see how you did. And then lastly, make sure you review words you learned before and find ways to connect them to the new words you're learning.
Because ultimately, the goal of learning advanced vocabulary isn't just about knowing more words. It's about being able to express yourself more clearly, with more variety, and with confidence.
And those are skills that can really elevate your communication. So I think a good challenge for everyone listening today is to pick just one word that stood out to you and then actually try to use it in a conversation. Pay attention to how it feels to say it and how people react. You might be surprised by the difference it makes.
Great advice. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to all our listeners, be sure to check back in next week for another deep dive.
All right, so you're here to boost your communication, right? To speak and write with more oomph.
Exactly. More nuance, more precision.
We're going to deep dive into a vocabulary building strategy.
That really gets you using new words. It's for intermediate English learners.
But the ideas we're talking about today can work for anyone.
In any field.
So we're looking at this really cool method laid out in a podcast script, actually.
Yeah, and it's all about learning and using new words, not just memorizing them.
Yeah, it's about making them a real part of how you express yourself. So the first thing they do
Is group words by topic
like they use the theme of feeling.
with words like excited, nervous, confused, bored, and angry.
Why do you think that thematic approach is so strong?
Well, it just makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Our brains love categories.
Right.
Like when you learn related words together, you build connections. It's easier to remember them that way than just trying to memorize a random list.
That makes sense. The next step is to make those words personal.
Yeah, write your own sentences.
Like, I'm excited about my trip next week.
Exactly. You connect the word to your own life.
To your own experience.
And it makes it so much more memorable. And then...
and saying it out loud too, right?
Absolutely. That adds another layer of learning.
Okay, then there's this idea of mini conversations.
Like you have to use each new word at least 3 times a day.
In conversation.
Well, even if it's just with yourself.
Oh, I see.
It's about moving from knowing the word to actually using it.
Putting it into practice.
That's so cool.
Okay, so then they talk about using flashcards.
Yes, with spaced repetition.
Like Anki or Quizlet.
Yeah, these tools are great for that. They help you review words.
Right at the right time.
Exactly. When you're about to forget them, which is key for long-term memory.
So it's not just about cramming.
No, consistency is key. You got to keep coming back to the words.
Okay, so speaking of consistency, this method also says to write with your new words every day.
Yes. So you're speaking them and writing them.
Why is that combo so powerful?
Well, it hits different parts of your brain.
Right.
Speaking is about pronunciation and fluency. Writing helps you see how the word fits into a sentence, with grammar and all that.
Oh, I get it. It's a more well-rounded way to learn the word.
Exactly. And there's this bonus step.
Ooh, tell me about it.
They call it the teach someone else trick.
Even if you have to pretend.
Right. Like imagine explaining excited as really happy and full of energy.
Does explaining it out loud actually help you learn it?
Oh, it really does.
Yeah.
It forces you to simplify the concept.
To really understand it yourself first.
Exactly. To make sure you've got it down.
Wow, that's smart. Okay, so to put all of this into practice...
They suggest a little challenge.
It's a challenge. I love challenges.
They give you the theme before an important event.
Oh, okay.
And you try to use those feeling words we talked about.
Nervous, confused, excited, all of those.
Weave them into a little story.
That's cool. Okay, so summarizing this daily routine.
Pick 5 words by topic.
Make personal sentences with them.
Use them in conversations.
Put them on flashcards with spaced repetition.
Speak and write with them every day.
Review them and teach them to someone else.
And keep showing up.
Yeah, consistency is key. So what's really fascinating to me is...
This approach isn't just for language learning.
You can use it for anything.
For any skill you're trying to learn.
It's about choosing a theme.
Making it personal.
Practicing actively.
And reviewing consistently.
So think about it. What's your vocabulary in your field? What 5 words could you start with today?
And how can you use this method to really master them?
That's all for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to unlock some serious English vocabulary gains?
Always ready.
Awesome. Today we're diving deep into a method that's perfect if you're just getting started.
Okay.
It's all about learning just 5 new words every day. Sounds pretty manageable, right?
Definitely, yeah. Small steps.
Exactly. We've got some awesome material that breaks this method down, and we're going to unpack it all for you today. So by the end of this, you'll have a clear picture of how this approach can help you build a stronger vocabulary without that overwhelming feeling of trying to learn everything at once.
Right. It's like that saying, slow and steady wins the race.
100%. That's the philosophy behind this method. Now, I have got to admit, when I first heard about learning just 5 words a day, I thought, well, that really make a difference.
Yeah, I can see that. It seems, pretty small.
Totally. But the magic happens when you look at the compound effect. Our source material points this out. It's like a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Think about it. 5 words a day adds up to 35 words a week.
Yeah.
And hold on, get this. It's 150 words a month. That's pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, that's huge. That consistency really pays off.
It really does. Okay, so let's say you're on board with this 5 words a day idea. How do you actually choose those words?
Well, the sources we're looking at emphasize choosing words that are, first of all, easy to understand. No need to jump into complex jargon right away.
Keep it simple. Got it.
Exactly. The second thing is they should be relevant to your everyday life. Think about words you might encounter in your daily routines, conversations, or surroundings.
Okay, that makes sense. The more you see and use a word, the better you'll remember it.
Precisely. And lastly, choose words that are immediately useful. Words you can actually start using right away. The material gives some great examples to illustrate this. Think about words like apple, water, chair, happy, and walk.
Yeah, those are super common words that everyone uses all the time.
Exactly. They're concrete, relatable, and you're bound to come across them daily.
Perfect. All right, so you've got your 5 words. They're simple, relevant, and useful. What's the next step in this method?
So now it's time to put those words into action. The method stresses the importance of using each new word in a simple sentence. This is where the learning really starts to click.
Okay, so how would you use those example words in sentences?
Sure. So for apple, you could say, I eat an apple every day. For water, you might say, I drink water after exercising. This chair is comfortable, works for chair. And for happy and walk, you could say, I feel happy when the sun shines and I walk in the park every evening.
See, I told you, simple sentences. Anyone can do this.
Exactly. The key is to keep it straightforward and easy to remember. And here's a crucial tip. Don't just think these sentences. Say them out loud. Repeat each sentence a few times. This might feel a little silly at first, but trust me, it makes a huge difference.
Why is speaking so important? We're not just trying to learn how to read these words, right?
Right. When you speak the words out loud, you're engaging more than just your visual memory. You're actually training your mouth to pronounce the words correctly. And that helps solidify the connection between the word and its meaning in your brain. It makes it much more real.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like you're not just passively absorbing the word, you're actively using it.
Exactly. It's like learning any new skill. The more you practice, the better you get. And speaking the words and sentences aloud is like hands-on practice for your vocabulary.
Awesome. So we've got our words, we're making sentences, and we're saying them out loud. Anything else we can do to really make these new words stick?
Oh yeah, there's more. Our sources suggest using visual aids, like pictures or flashcards, to further boost your memory. You can either create simple drawings that represent each word, or use flashcards with the word on one side and the definition and example sentence on the other.
I love the flashcard idea. You can even use apps like Quizlet or Anki if you prefer digital flashcards. It's a fun way to quiz yourself and reinforce what you've learned.
Absolutely. And even if you're not a tech person, good old-fashioned paper flashcards work wonders. The act of creating the flashcards itself can be a learning experience too.
Totally. Okay, we're almost at the end of our daily vocabulary routine. Any last tips before we wrap things up?
Oh yes, one more crucial step. The material recommends a quick review of your 5 words and their sentences right before bed. Just a few minutes of running through them mentally can make a big difference.
So we're talking about a little bedtime vocabulary session.
Exactly. While you sleep, your brain continues to process information, so reviewing before bed can help solidify those new words in your long-term memory.
It's like giving your brain some extra study time while you're snoozing. I love it.
It's a smart way to make the most of your learning efforts.
All right, so to recap, this 5-word method is all about consistency and active learning. You choose 5 simple, relevant, and useful words, create sentences with them, say them out loud, use visuals, and review before bed.
And the most important part, don't just stop at memorizing these words. Use them. Look for opportunities to incorporate them into your conversations, your writing, your daily life.
That's where the real magic happens. It's not just about knowing the words, it's about owning them, making them part of your active vocabulary.
Precisely. And the beauty of this method is that it's so manageable. It doesn't require hours of study or complicated techniques. It's just small, consistent steps that lead to big results over time.
So I want you to imagine for a moment, where could you be with your English vocabulary in just a few months from now if you commit to the simple daily habit? It's pretty exciting to think about, right? What new doors could open for you with a richer vocabulary?
Food for thought.
Definitely. That's all we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, happy learning.